Hi everyone, welcome to this tutorial on Home Designer Bundle. We're going to see how to install the plugin, how to use it, how to modify it. And as you can see here, I set up a new empty project where I imported the plugin. Inside Exoa folder I have the Building Designer, Floor Map Designer, Home Designer, and Touch Camera Pro. And I also have a folder called ArcViz. These are models and materials straight from the ArcViz packages that I'm going to use here just for the sake of that tutorial. Before we start, I want to point out that this tutorial is going to be based on the bundle version 2.0.7. In this bundle, you don't need to install any other dependencies. You don't need to install .win, LinTouch, and newtons of JSON. Everything you need is included inside the bundle. So that's the good news. And you also have two new windows available inside the menu Tools Exoa. The first one is called Home Designer Suite to Welcome Screen. This is just a convenient way to access useful links. So for each module included, you have access to support forum, you have access to manuals, you have access to video intro, the assistant page. Everything is just put there together for you to find easily. When you import the plugin inside your project, you're going to see a window asking you if you can install the layers and tags inside your project. So make sure you install it in a blank fresh new Unity project. Otherwise, yeah, you might override your existing layers and that's not good. When you think it's safe, just click yes. And you're going to see inside the layers tab a bunch of new layers that have been added. These are necessary to run the plugin. The next thing before starting is you want to make sure that in the build settings, the new scenes have been added automatically. They are called Floor Map Editor and Home Designer. These are the two main modules. Floor Map Editor will help you create a floor map, and Home Designer will help you put materials and objects inside the spaces. So normally they are added there automatically. If they are not, just find them in your projects and add them there. So we're gonna go inside Floor Map Designer, Scenes, Floor Map Editor, and make sure everything works. So I'm able to launch the scene. Everything seems to be working, and if I click on the last button on the bottom left corner, I'm now switching to Home Designer module. And by default, you should have two floor maps that are embedded in the plugin. And you also have default materials that are inside the plugin that you can try. You also have some prefabs that are already prepared for you that you can try. And basically in this tutorial, we're gonna just go ahead and replace all the materials and all the objects so you can customize everything. Before creating our own modules and importing our own materials, we can already have a look at those samples that I just showed you to see how they are done and modify them if we need. So you can go inside the Home Designer Samples, Sample Data Resources folder. You're going to find all the basic folders that are required for the application to work. So if you want to go over them real quick, ceiling, floors, outside, roof and walls are containing materials for those respective surfaces. And then you have the internal modules folder that is containing subfolders with the prefabs that we're gonna create together. Then we have the same folder with thumbnails in the name. These are just screenshots basically of each prefab that are generated by the software. And then you have the embedded floor maps if you want to propose to your users already made rooms. That's possible here. You can just place little JSON files. Then you have the thumbnails for those rooms. So we're gonna go over this later in the tutorial. Let's just dig a little bit more into the interior module. So if, for example, I'm opening one of those, this is a basic module. You can see that we have just a mesh object here. We have a collider box that is just a cube basically that overlaps the entire object. This collider is used to be able to click on the object, so you must really cover the full area, right? So this is basically the shape of the object. Then we have joints. So the left joint and the right joint are located in the back corner of the model. They are used to actually be able to place the object against the wall or connect it to other objects. So for example, here you would be able to snap those cabinets on the side of each other really easily. So this is what they are meant for. So this is pretty basic. And all of this is using the module tag and module layer. The joint are having a joint layer, and the collider is having a module layer. But don't worry, all those layers and tags are going to be added automatically using our nice window helper. When you create a module, everything's going to be already prepared for you. So if you want to start right away, you can just edit those prefabs and import your own modules, and that's going to be also a nice and fast way to learn how to make your own modules. And as for the materials, you can also click on them and see how they are done. So basically they use this Exoa standard built-in shader instead of the Unity standard shader. The reason for this is that I have a little window that also helps to go from one render pipeline to another render pipeline. Let me open it up. So this is the tool. If you're switching to URP or HERP later, you can just click on one of those buttons, and it's going to look for all the materials using the Exoa shaders, and it's going to just convert them to the right render pipeline shader. So yeah, basically this is still the standard shader, nothing really special here. So for each material, we have an albedo texture and sometimes a bump map texture. So this is a pretty standard material, nothing fancy about them. So what we're gonna do now is just using this whole architecture of folders, and we're gonna be now placing our own modules, our own prefab, our own materials inside them from the ArcViz database. Alright, so now that you have a better understanding of the basic folders that compose a resources folder, we're gonna go ahead and delete all the samples, so all the modules and material that are pre-packed with the plugin, and we're gonna create our own modules and our own materials. So I'm gonna just unfold everything here. I will remove all the existing ceiling materials. I'm gonna keep the embedded floor maps and the embedded thumbnails because they are gonna be useful still. Exterior wall, we can remove everything. The floor, we can remove everything as well. Next up, we have all the modules. so ordered by category, so we can remove everything as well. For each module, we have a thumbnail that has been generated. We're gonna remove them all since we're gonna regenerate them. Now inside the outside folder, we have also material for the grass and concrete tiles. We can remove them. Roof material we can also remove, walls as well. So we keep only empty folders. And the last thing, we want to also empty out all the two JSON files that are referencing the categories and modules. If you want to empty those files, you can just open them and remove everything that are under those brackets here. You keep only the modules root node. There you go. So we are back here with a really empty picture. So now if you launch the app, you will see that you have no modules at all, no categories at all. And if you open any of the floor maps available, you can see there is no materials available. So that's it. Everything is empty. I'm gonna just move that resources folder in the root of my project, so it's more easily accessible. And this is where now we're gonna just copy our new materials and create our new modules. Inside my projects, I prepared a argvis folder that are containing some objects, like for example, we have chairs, we have carpets, we have frames, we have some lamps, sofa, tables, etc. And I also prepared a materials folder that contains material for the ceiling, floors. As you can see, we have some wood floors that are very nice. We have roof material that could be also used for the outside walls. And we have the inside walls materials. So we're going to start with just the materials. I'm just going to copy everything here inside the respective folder, inside the resources folder. For the outside wall, I'm just going to copy the same material as the one for the roof. And the last step I need, well, for now they are all using the standard Unity shader, which is fine. If you launch the app now, it's going to work. But just to make it more practical, I'm going to convert all these materials with the XOA standard shader. The reason for this is if you want to switch a render pipeline, the render pipeline in your project, you can do it easily with the window called Render Pipeline Switcher. This allows you to detect all the XOA shaders, all the materials using those XOA shaders, and convert them to built-in URP, HDRP easily. So it's up to you if you want to do that, but just for the sake of that tutorial, I'm going to do it. So I'm selecting all the materials and only the materials. And I'm going to switch them to here my on the pipeline is built-in, so I'm only seeing built-in shaders. I'm selecting the standard built-in. All right, at this point, all the materials should be ready to be used in the application. So now if I'm going back to the application, clicking on the floor, you can see I have all the materials for the floor available. And I can also play with the tiling, so this is great. And same thing for the walls. I have a few walls materials. I also have roof materials. If I click on the roof, I can change the roof material. This is great. And finally, the outside walls. Perfect. Next thing we want to do now is to create modules, and before that we need to create categories of modules. So you can create a category for the living room, one for the bedroom, and so on, or you can create categories per object types. For example, one category for the table, one category for all the lights you have, and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a new entry here, and I'm gonna do a first category called lamps. So the folder name is the name that's going to be inside your resource folder, and the name of that category is going to be displayed inside the app itself. So I'm going to do 3 categories, one for the lamps, one for the tables, and one for sofas. I can as well, if I want, move them around to have the lamps after the tables and the sofa. When I'm done creating my categories, I can click on save, and the software tells me that the files interior categories.json has been created. And there is also new folders that have been created for me, tables, sofa, lamps. So I can open my resource folder, open the interior modules folder, and you can see that those new 3 modules have been created for me. So it's very convenient. If I select the entire categories JSON, you can see that the JSON has been filled for me as well. So that's great. And now we can move on and create our modules inside those categories. Next step, we want now to create modules inside our categories. So you can see I have a modules tab that helps me list all my modules and give some more information to them. But for now, we're going to just create the prefabs. So to create a prefab, there's 2 ways. I can either create an empty module inside one of the categories that have been just created, or I can also create modules in a bulk way. I just select objects in my project and categories, and they're gonna just be created all at once. So we're gonna see both ways. So here I'm going to create a table called table 1 inside the tables category. I'll click on create. The software tells me that the prefab has been created under the tables folder. There you go. And the prefab mode is already open in that prefab, so that's really convenient. Now I can just go find one of the tables I want to put in. There you go, and I will have to position it and resize the collider. Set the transform. I will also rotate the object, and I will switch to isometric view. As you can see, we want everything to be aligned on the y0. So here it works. We have the table starting at 0 and the corridor as well. Now with the corridor, I just have to overlap roughly the whole shape. So I'm going to do it in both axes, 3 axes actually. And now we're done. The module is created, I don't really need the joint here because the table doesn't have to snap to anything else. So I can just remove those. The collider already has the right layer. The root object also has the right layer and tag. So we are pretty good. I'm just gonna hide the mesh renderer of that collider. And my first module is now created. Let's do now a sofa, which is a little bit more complicated since we have to place the joints at the back of the sofa. So you can see here I have two different models of sofas. I'm going to select them both, and I'm going to go with the second method, create module prefabs from selected objects in hierarchy. It's actually more in the project folder, not in the hierarchy. So I'm going to select the sofa category, and it tells me you're about to create two module prefabs. There you go. So the prefab created are a count of two. If I go inside my sofa subfolder, I can see my two modules created. This is great. I still need to edit them manually. So I click on them and I will have to place the sofa in the right position. You can see the object was really not set up correctly. Depends on really the mesh where it comes from. So there you go. The prefab is back at 0, and now I just have to reshape the collider again. So this is roughly my shape. Now I just have to do it in this angle. There you go. And I will have to put the left joint and the right joint at the right position. And here I'm just going to snap them to my collider so it's even easier to do. I'm pressing the V key and they're going to snap there on the edges. And that's pretty much it. I'm again going to hide the mesh renderer. And my first sofa is ready. I will open the second one. Same situation here. The sofa prefab had an offset, so I'm going to have to reposition it. One thing I didn't mention, you have to make sure that your object is facing towards the z-axis. So here it works perfectly. The sofa is looking towards the z-axis. Apparently, the color of that sofa is wrong. I'm going to fix that as well. So let's start with the collider. All right, and now we're going to put the joints again. And the right joint on the right. There you go. I can now hide the mesh renderer. And I can have a quick look to fix that material. I think the sofa is just white, so there's nothing wrong with the sofa itself. Can give it a color maybe. There you go, my second sofa is created. The last module I'm going to be creating is a lamp. So I'm going to go with the first method, just create an empty module inside the lamp folder. There you go. And I will go and put in one of those lamps. So this is interesting because it's a ceiling lamp. You don't want it to snap to the floor. You don't want it to snap to other objects. You want it to snap to the ceiling. So to do so, you just have to put that lamp on Y0. So basically here, that's what we're going to do here. And there is just one checkbox to check somewhere. So let's do that. This is my lamp. I'm going to be moving the collider as well up to the bottom. Go. I don't need the joints, so I'm removing them. The collider can now be hidden. And on the lamp 1 root game objects, on the module controller script, I'm just going to say this is a ceiling tile, not a ground tile. That's pretty much it. I can just close that prefab, and you can see now all my 3 categories have been filled with some objects. So the next step is now to generate the thumbnails. So I can go here. There's one button called generate all thumbnails, and it tells me 4 thumbnails has been created. That's perfect. If you look inside the thumbnail folder, see now thumbnails for our 3 objects. Of course, feel free to override these thumbnails, create your own with any image software if you need to, but this is just a fast way to create them inside the app to make it work easily. Now that we have the prefab and we have the thumbnails, we just need to add those modules to the JSON list. So this is my module list. You can see it's completely empty. Of course, I can add the prefabs manually. So I just have to fill at least the prefab name here. The rest is really optional. Depending on what you want to do with your app, you can add a SKU, price, type, title. These are just generic fields that you can remove, keep, do whatever you like with them. But I'm not going to create them one by one manually. This is too tedious. I have one button here called Add Missing Modules from the Resources Entire Modules folder. Just creating that. It tells me these list entries have been added, lamp 1, Soderman, sofa, and table 1. Perfect. I click on OK, so you can see the list have been filled. Each time I have the name of the prefab and the title for that object that I can actually rename if I want to. I can say, let's call it ceiling lamp. Table, I'm going to call it big table. This is the name that's going to be appearing inside the application. The one name you should not touch is the prefab name. All right, so now my list is ready. I can just save it. It's saved. And if you click on the interior modules JSON, you can see that now the JSON has been filled up for you. So that's really convenient. And now we are ready to try those modules inside our application. I'm going to hit play. I'm going to go to the interior design section. I'm going to create other material on the floor. I'm going to try the table. So the table is supposed to be draggable, but it would not snap to the wall, it would not snap to anything else than the floor. Go, you can of course click on it, you can see the title appearing and his thumbnail. You can click on move and scale it down and up, rotate it using the arrow keys. Next up, we're going to try the sofa. So the first sofa can snap to the wall. You can see if I'm dragging it around, it's going to snap to the wall that is the closest to it. And if I snap another sofa, you can see they now snap to each other thanks to those joints. So this is very convenient if you have, for example, a kitchen to do with a lot of cabinets that needs to snap precisely to each other. This is really the way to go easily. Finally, let's try our lamp. So here we have our lamp that is supposed to snap only to the ceiling. There you go. So it doesn't snap to the floor, but only to the ceiling area. This is great. I can always re-click on it. I want to put it precisely. I can be in orthographic mode. Click on move and move it around on top of the table, for example. There you go. So that's it. Our modules are working. You know all the basics about how to create your own modules and add your own materials. So let's go a little bit further into details on customizing now the materials in real time of these objects. Okay, the next thing I will show you with the modules is how to create material variants for this object. So I'm going to go and select one sofa for the sake of that example. Over sofa. So we're going to propose to the user different colors for that sofa. So you can see the sofa here is made with different kind of renderers because we have pillows, but we have a main renderer. So we're going to propose to change that sofa color. I'm going to click on the root object, the one that has the module controller component. And I'm going to add another component. This is called module color variant. So you have two types of variation possible. You can play on the color or you can play on the material itself. Let's check if we can play with the color of that material. I can open that material and change the color in Unity, so it means that yes, we can play with the color straight away. But of course, if I want to swap the material, that's also possible. So for the example, we're going to say colors. We're going to propose different variants. So we're going to say red. Here I have to provide a red color. Another one will be green. And I'm going to do a third one. It's going to be blue. Perfect. And now I need to provide the list of renderers that are going to be affected by that color swap. So the main renderer is here. So, and that's it. Now we should be able to change the color in real time. I have a U button that appeared called variants. I can click on it and change in real time inside the application the color of my module. There you go.